Tonight's title is The Coin of Heaven. There are two sides to the coin, mind and speech. We are told in the 50th Psalm, to him who orders his conversations aright, I will show the salvation of God. Now, there is a work that came out in the first century, just about the time that our evangelists were gathering together our Gospels. It's called the Hermetica. And in this work, today we have a translation in 4 volumes by Walter Scott. He said there are 2 gifts that God gave to man alone and to no other mortal creature. These are mind and speech. And with these gifts, these are equivalent to immortality. If a man uses these gifts rightly, he will differ in nothing from the immortals. And when he sheds his body, they will be his guides. And by them, he will be taken into the troop of the gods and into the souls of those who have attained to bliss. Now, the Bible speaks much of this gift, but the word is not called always speech. It's called the way. It's called the path. It's called the tread. Here is the same word that I've just translated as conversation from the 50th Psalm. To him who orders his conversations aright, I will show the salvation of God. Now, the word translated conversation, which is the Hebrew derek, is also translated the way. And here is now that wonderful chapter in Proverbs devoted to wisdom. And Christ is called the wisdom of God and the power of God. So now wisdom is personified, and here we read the words. The Lord created me at the beginning of his way, the very first of his acts of old. Ages ago I was set up, before the beginning of the earth. Well, that word translated way could be translated conversation. As we are told, his very first act was, let us make man in our image. So here, the Lord created me at the beginning of his word, his conversation. Let us make man in our image. Now we're invited to be imitators of God as dear children and use the same technique. For we have been given a gift that makes us immortal. The gift is mind and speech. And if we use these gifts wisely and rightly, we differ in nothing from the immortals. And they will be our guides after we shed these bodies and take us into the very troop of the gods and into those souls who have attained the bliss, immortality. Now, you and I must try it. We must test it. Is it really so? Do you mean that I can start right now without any background whatsoever? I know I have a gift of mind. I can think. I know I can speak. And were I dumb, I can still think and think in terms of words. If I could not express them in words, I can still think inwardly in these words. That's all that matters. If a man could only control his inner dialogue, he would find it the most rewarding of all conversations. Oh, it's so easy, as Shakespeare said, it's so easy to teach others, teach 20 what were good to be done. Yet he finds it so difficult to be one of the 20 to follow his own teaching. For all day long, man is thinking, and he thinks in words, and he's talking, he's carrying on inner conversations with himself. But they're really dialogues. It's not a monologue. He is conjuring people in his mind's eye, 2 or more. And there he carries on these dialogues all through the day, all into the night. And he's arguing. Now that is not what we are taught in Scripture. God said, let us make man in our image. No argument. That was a decision made. And he never wavered in that decision. He's forming man into his own image, but he granted man the same gift to go berserk and to misuse that gift. If you and I this very night could decide what we want to be in this world, I don't care what it is, and then carry on these inner conversations from that assumption that we are already the man or the woman that we want to be, and then not waver in that assumption, we will really be imitating God as dear children. So I would say to everyone here, test it. Try it to the very limit. I know from my own experience that it works. We have this immortal gift of mind and speech, and we do not differ in any respect from the gods. If we use it wisely, we will know we are not only immortal, but we are really the creative being of the world. Now listen to these words. I am the Lord, and there is no other. Besides me, there is no God. I have just quoted the 45th chapter, the 5th verse of Isaiah. Besides me, there is no God. He gave me the same talent, gave us the same talent, which is himself, which is mind and speech. I use the word imagination more often than I use the word mind. But here, to quote accurately, they said it was mind and speech. But I say I have the ability to imagine. I can form my thoughts in words. I can take my thoughts and form them into words that would imply the fulfillment of my dream. Am I now bold enough to assume that I realize my dream before it is visible in my world? Now listen to this fantastic promise as we read it in the 11th chapter of the book of Mark. Whoever will say to this mountain, be removed and cast into the sea, and will not doubt in his heart, but believes that what he says will come to pass, it will be done for him. Now you can take the word mountain either actually, or you can take it simply as an enormous problem. No matter what the problem is, and you can just say to it, be removed and be cast into the sea. And if you will not doubt in your heart that what you say will come to pass, it will be done for you. Now the next verse follows with this statement. Therefore, when you pray, believe that you have received, and you will. I am called upon to assume that I am the man that I would like to be. And in spite of the mountainous opposition that would deny it, my reason denies it, my senses deny it, everything denies it. But I will persist in that assumption. And then it will be done for me in a way that no one knows. So can you conceive of this way spoken of in Scripture? Now the early Christians were called the people of the way. And the word way is simply the new conversations, as told us in Ephesians. Put off the old nature which belongs to your former conversations, and put on the new nature created after the likeness of God. So I'm identified with my conversations, that my nature is simply my conversation. So mind Or rather, speech is the image of mind, and mind is the image of God. If I would know what God is, well then, look at my speech, for it is the image of mind, and mind is the image of God. So then we are told in Deuteronomy, the word is not far from you. It is in your mouth and on your tongue that you can do it. See, I have set before you this day good and evil, life and death, blessing and curse. Choose life, that you may have, and you and your descendants may live. Choose life, but I can't deny the right of choice. Put before me the entire thing, good and evil, life and death, blessings and cursing. But the suggestion is given, choose life. I may want to actually rub someone out. Why? Leave it alone and choose something altogether lovely. It'll take care of itself. That monkey that seems to be my opposition, it'll take care of itself. It's all within me if I use the talents correctly. And my gift from God to myself is mind and speech. And I need not wait for the evidence to support it. In spite of the lack of evidence, I can precede it. Evidence will follow. The most creative thing in us is to bring a thing into being. And when the thing comes into being, it follows what I did in my own wonderful inner conversations. We are speaking beings, speaking animals. And as we are told, he gave it to us alone and to no other mortal creature. And this makes us the equivalent of the immortals. We are immortal by reason of the gift of mind and speech. Now I can misuse it, and the whole vast manifested world goes to show us what use or misuse we have made of the gift of God. Wars are simply brought about in the same manner. I will go back to 1919. My father was no prophet. He was not a man of the world, living in a small little island in the West Indies. And around the table, I can hear him vividly now. He was a ship chandler and supplied the ships with all their needs, especially groceries. And so he sat this day at the table, and he said to his mother, that is to my mother, his wife, and to all of us, there'll be another war in 20 years. Now that's 1919. The boys were coming home from Europe after the First World War. And Mother said to him, Joseph, why do you say that? Look at our sons. They'll all be just ripe for a war if it's going to happen in another 20 years. He said it would take place in another 20 years, and he even named the opponents. He named Germany, Italy, and Japan. Japan was not in the First World War, and Italy was not on the side of Germany. It was on the side of the Allies. He named these three. He got it from the captains, and he got it from the stewards, and he got it from the officers of the ships that he supplied. And he believed what they said, and he simply expressed what he heard. But he heard it and he believed it. Well, the war broke exactly 20 years later on the 1st of September, 1939, when England declared war on Germany as Germany moved into Poland. Now here, that's no prophecy. It's simply that these words are coming to pass. A simple little man in a little island unknown to the world, and he is voicing something. He was not alone because he was only giving voice to those things said to him aboard the ships. And that's how man thought. And today man is thinking in the same way, misusing his one talent, which is his speech and his mind. You could start now to counteract all the nonsense in the papers and all the nonsense on TV and radio by simply assuming that you are what you would like to be, ignoring everything that would oppose it, and dare to assume it to the point of self-conviction that you believe it. And do you know it will come to pass? For this is the coin of heaven.